Haha, YouTube, it's me. I'm back with another pop culture update. It's been a little while since the last one, longer than I thought, but I'm back. I got 5 things: 3 games, a book, and some TV. So we're going to start with the book, and it is called Homeland. Book 1 in the Dark Elf trilogy set in the Forgotten Realms universe. This was released in 1990. I've come across this character in some of my other Forgotten Realms books. He's a dark elf, or a drow elf, as they're called, named Drizzt Do'Urden. So it's basically the story of his early life. So the dark elves are totally like, their skin is like jet black, and they have really shockingly white hair, and they live underground. The sun, they don't like the sun. And basically everybody is their mortal enemies. Other creatures in the underground, but specifically the top dwellers, and especially the fairies and the elves that live topside. So the city of the Dark Elves is called Menzoberranzan, something like that. I'm not sure how to say it. And so this first book chronicles the Do'Urden family. Basically, the families in Menzoberranzan, they're ruling families, and like there's the first ruling family, the second, whatever. So the most powerful houses gain their way to the top. And it's kind of a savage culture where violence is encouraged. Being an evil backstabber is looked upon as a good thing. So basically the way life works there is families aspire to climb as high as they can. So if one family wages war on another family, so long as they do it without anybody knowing what went on, other than one family got destroyed by another, if they keep it hush hush, it's encouraged. You just climbed up a spot in the hierarchy. But if you are caught, one family is caught trying to destroy another, then you're basically eradicated and punished for not doing it right, sort of thing. So it's a really weird culture. So this story starts when the Do'Urden family is trying to eliminate the Devere family, I think it is, to gain a spot. And on this night, the woman and the women of the Dark Elves are more powerful than the men, and they kind of rule things. So on this night, the head of the Do'Urden family, Matron Malice, gives birth to a child they name Drizzt. So he is the third-born male. So the third-born male in every family basically is thrown away as a sacrifice. But on the same night he's born is when the Do'Urden family attacks the Devere family, and the middle child, Dinan, makes a move on the oldest boy, Nalfine, I think his name was, and stabs him in the back and kills him so that he can become the first boy, which essentially saves Drizzt's life. Once they learn that Nalfine is dead, they're like, oh, now Drizzt's the second boy, so he can live. But there's something different about Drizzt. He's got these lavender eyes. He's got some different characteristics, and they're a little unsure about him. So as time goes by, decades go by, and these elves live for a long, long time. It kind of chronicles his experience growing up in this family, being harassed by his sisters, going away to school to become a warrior, and he's amazing. He's the best warrior they've ever seen. And to start him off on his earliest warrior training was Zaknafine, who is the Do'Urden's weapons master, and who also happens to be Drizzt's father, although he doesn't know it at the time. So Zak has the same kind of attitudes as Drizzt. He's picked up the same attitudes as his father, where he's not really into the way the Dark Elves work. He's not into just killing and the violence. He's a little more affable. He likes to laugh, sort of thing. And Drizzt has got these characteristics, and Matron Malice sees them, and they try to drill it out of him because he's such a capable warrior, and they have great aspirations for him leading their house eventually, right, into the Promised Land. But as time goes by, Drizzt just doesn't adopt the way of the Dark Elf life. And so a couple of things happen that kind of seal his fate. Once they graduate from the warrior school, they start going on patrols into the caverns in the underground to make sure nobody's encroaching on their territory, blah, blah, blah. On one of these missions, they meet up with some what are they? They're dwarves or something like that. That mine stone and have their own city far from Menzo Baranzan, and the patrol that Drizzt is leading, his fellow Drow elves that are on this mission attack these dwarves and kill them. And Drizzt takes down an earth elemental, which is an amazing feat in itself. And as they're ready to kill the leader of the dwarf expedition, Drizzt tries to save the guy and be like, no, let him go back to his town and warn them not to encroach on our territory, that we're fearsome warriors. He's not actually wants him to do that. He's just trying to spare this creature's life. And then Dinan, Drizzt's brother, goes, okay, we'll let him go back, but take off his hands before he goes. So Drizzt's like, oh my god. So they lop off this guy's hands, and he goes back to his Blingdenstone, I think is the name of the dwarven village. And then another time they go on a patrol, but this time they go right to the surface during the night, and they find a party of elves or whatever that are frolicking in the meadow and having a good time, and they slaughter the whole bunch. Drizzt doesn't kill any. He's appalled by what his brethren are doing, and to make it look like he's done something terrible, he pretends to murder an elven child, cuts her up, but doesn't really actually cut her, cuts up all of her clothes. He spreads some blood on her, makes it look like she's been cut up, and then puts her on the ground and says, don't move. And so he passes it off like he killed a child. So everybody's like, yeah! So then they go back. But the Drow elves are ruled by somebody named Loth, who is the Spider Queen. And you can either be in Loth's favor or you can be in her disfavor. Loth eventually learns, she sees everything. She sees that Drizzt did not kill this elven child. And so Matron Malice and House Doradin start to fall out of favor. So in order to try and bring Drizzt back into line, Matron Malice kind of has a meeting with him after killing Zack. They kill Zack because they don't want to kill Drizzt because he's so capable, but they're like, maybe they will take Zack, maybe Loth will take Zack's sacrifice as penance for Drizzt's actions. But that happens, and that only pisses Drizzt off more because he has recently found out that Zack is his father, and the two share this common way of looking at life. They're nothing like the rest of the Dark Elves, so that only sets Drizzt over the edge. And eventually he plans his escape from Menzo Baranzan at a meeting with his family, his stupid sisters, his stupid mother. It looks like a confrontation is about to happen when they see he's not going to come back in line. So he throws a smoke bomb or something like that, and before they can even realize what's going on, he's gone. So he basically escapes into the underground caverns that surround his homeland, and that's kind of where the first book ends. So we'll see if he goes to the surface, if he hangs around underground. I know what happens to him eventually because, like I said, I've read about him in these other stories, but where does he go before he gets to that spot, right? So can't wait to find out. Next up, we'll talk about the TV series. Y'all probably saw this one or at least heard about it, but the 5th and final season of Stranger Things. So, the 5th season of Stranger Things, it's a bit convoluted. I had problems following some of the storylines because it's been so long since I watched the other seasons, but basically, I think it's been almost 2 years, close to 2 years since when the 4th season ended off, and all the kids in this gang, and of course Hopper and Joyce and all the other people involved in this are going on what they call crawls. So basically, they've taken over the radio station, the local radio station, and Robin is the DJ, and Steve helps her out. And basically, they communicate to all their friends and family that are involved in trying to suss out Vecna and bring this whole terrible nightmare to an end. They use the radio waves as a way to communicate with each other and tell when, oh, okay, it's time for a crawl, we're doing this, we're meeting here. But they do it all in code, with Robin as the DJ. So the military has taken over Hawkins. They've locked everything down, the rift where everything went wrong. So they're having to do all this behind the military's back in secret and try and keep it all under wraps, right? So they're going on these crawls to the Upside Down to try and find Vecna's base and kill him. It's not going well. They've been at it for a couple years almost, and they're no closer to finding him. Suddenly, Vecna starts stealing children. He steals Holly, so Mike and Nancy's youngest sister, and suddenly the military starts rounding up children as well, as they're fearing the military is trying to use them for something similar to what happened to Elle and whatever, but Vecna needs these kids as well. So he eventually comes for them and manages to steal them. And basically what he's doing is the same thing that he did with Will. He had the thing hook up to him and all the things went into him, and he developed this kind of hive mind with Will, that he's trying to get all these kids into the same situation. We just don't know why yet. There's all this other stuff going on, like Max is still in a coma in the hospital, but once Holly is kidnapped, we see her kind of meet up with Max in Vecna's kind of other realm that he kind of inhabits, and the two of them try to escape after Holly escapes from Vecna, or Henry Creel, I guess is his real name, in this kind of weird land. And so they try to escape. They eventually find a way to get back. Max eventually comes back, but then Vecna sicks all the demigorgons on all the kids, and he steals all the kids. It's I can't even remember the order that all of this happened, but there's all this stuff going on, and we don't know why. Eventually, Dustin and some other people figure out what's going on. So it's not an upside down parallel universe kind of thing. What's happening is it's a wormhole, basically, is what these entrances are to the Upside Down. And so basically the Earth is here. Then there's a big kind of conical thing, that kind of a docking tube, we'll say, like in space travel, right? That docks with this other world, the Upside Down. So it's a whole other world. And what Vecna's trying to do by getting all these kids to be his little minions is he's trying to crash his world into Earth and combine the two, and basically destroy the Earth and turn it into a land of nightmare darkness full of demigorgons and other monsters and all that shit. And so as we see Holly and Max's experiences in Vecna's little secret realm, we see kind of what led Henry to become Vecna and some of his early childhood experiences that kind of set him on this path to becoming who he eventually became. And so eventually what happens is Max escapes, Holly doesn't, but Max is able to pass on some information to everybody else about what was going on when she was in Vecna's little realm, and also what Holly had experienced. And eventually they mount a desperate attempt to go into the Upside Down and find a way to get across, to get through this big wormhole into Vecna's world and kill him there before the two worlds can join. And I'm not going to spoil anything about what happens, but it's kind of an epic conclusion to this whole thing. And I really enjoyed the 5th season. I thought they did a good job in wrapping up the show. I've heard some people didn't like it. Some people did. But I usually like things no matter what. The only thing I didn't like, and let me just clarify this by saying I love all people. I love all people. I don't care if you're straight, gay, white, black, whatever. As long as you're a good person, go do what you got to do. Sleep with whoever you want. Do whatever you want in your spare time. You know, live your life, have your best life, whatever. But there has become this, like, second or third last episode in the season, Will's character was talking to his mom about his experiences, and he got really all worked up, and he had this big revelation to give to everybody. And I thought it was something about to do with Vecna or some of his previous experiences in the Upside Down that he didn't want to tell about, but might shed some light on how they're going to defeat Vecna in the end. And in the end, it was this big, long, drawn-out scene about him just coming out of the closet. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I've heard other people talk their videos on this about it being the gay agenda. Like, there's always in the shows they've got to do these long drawn out things about being gay and whatever. And I don't care about that, right? But they made it such a big deal in this scene that it was just kind of a letdown. It was like, what? That's all this is him coming out? I thought it was going to be something like critical to the story or whatever. And and it's so different from how they did Robin, because Robin in the show was a lesbian, and there was no big deal about it. There was just this kind of, you know, she kind of got caught by, I think it was Will, and it was it was a part of the storyline, but it was just done subtly, normally, whatever. But then for Will, they made it this whole big fucking thing. And again, I know lots of gay people. I love all of them, and I have a great time with them. But it just seems that they have to insert these things into shows now, and I don't know why, right? And it just, to me, it kind of ruins the integrity of the show that they're just trying to use it as a vessel for I don't know what, right? It's not saying that you can't have gay people, you can't have minorities, you can't have whatever. It's just make it normal. When you don't make it normal, it will never be normal. You know what I mean? And I feel that we're at the point where I think we're long past the point where gay people in our society is just a normal thing. And there's always going to be people who have problems with it, but there's no helping those people ever, right? But the majority of us don't care, right? So if you just let it be normal and just let it continue to be normal, it'll just get more and more normal. But when you keep inserting these kinds of things into shows and movies and stuff, it's like you're still trying to fight this crusade that doesn't really need to be fought anymore, is my thoughts on it. So again, don't lambaste me because you think I'm a homophobe. I'm not. Like I said, I have lots of gay friends, and I have lots of fun with them, and there's I've since I was a kid, my mom taught with some gay teachers, and they were some of the nicest people I knew. I've never had a problem with it, but I have a problem with the way it's inserted into these things in such a fashion, right? So take that for what it is. But either way, Stranger Things, awesome series. I love the finale. And the Holly character, it was just a really young kid that played her for the first 4 seasons. But then they got a new actress to play Holly, who was much more grown in the 5th season. And this kid, she is one of the most adorable kids you will ever see. She was so great. Such a great actress as well. Like, she just did such a great job. I feel, and I've heard other people talking about her as well. So I feel like she was like one of the runaway hit parts of the final season of Stranger Things. And I would definitely have to agree. She was fantastic. But so many characters I got attached to in this show. And that kind of monsters and fantasy realms, like, that's such up my alley kind of thing. And then the fact that it took place in the 80s when I grew up just brought back so much nostalgia, and you know, the music and the clothes and the cars and the toys that they were playing with. It was just a trip down memory lane, right? So I loved everything about this show. I loved the conclusion. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend. And yeah, we'll see what comes next for the Duffer Brothers.